Hello! Today we will be talking about the D2. The D2 is always associated with Saddle Me and with me, Carsten Engelke. Firstly, because it says Engelke on the saddles, and then secondly, because it was developed here, as was the D1. About the properties of the D2, I have already talked in various videos, especially in the video about the differences between the D1 and the D2. However, I still want to walk you through the history of the product again, and then I will show you the different models of D2s that we have, and I want to tell you what type of horseback best suits what type of saddle. And then, because there are people who have worked with these saddles and they have voiced their opinions, and then I just want to share my thoughts as the person who started the whole thing. So, D2. Here, this is the very first of its kind. You can see the markings on there from the development process. You can see different Velcro options, some other colorful versions. Then we worked with different carbon materials. This is how it looks when you developed a saddle, different block sizes. You cut off a bit here, add a bit there. I think other manufacturers work in a similar way. However, this was the first usable prototype that we produced, and I have held on to it for sentimental reasons. The idea behind these saddles is that I already explained that in the video differences between the D1 and the D2. We wanted to use the successful technology of the D1 with the freedom of movement for the shoulder and the elastic front girth strap, but we wanted to add to it with our unisex tree. You can still see the markings for the tree on here. We used a computer simulated tree and then 3D printed that, and then that was the base for the D2, and we added all the other components. So this is the idea of the D2. How does it look when you position it on the horse? That is, I think, the most interesting part. We have Lorenzo here again. He has already shot a video with us today, the RP girth video, and then I'm sure he can do another one as well. He looks like he's about to fall asleep. Let's take a normal saddle pad. Lorenzo, I've introduced him several times. He's 5 years old, a Libertad descendant, and he measures almost 180 centimeters. He's a super modern sport horse, very short saddle area. In the anatomy video, I described that nicely. So this is the end of the saddle area. This is not the 18th rib, but the end of Lorenzo's saddle area. Forearm, upper arm, shoulder blade, that whole thing moving backwards. So we need to keep that area free. So we end up with this short saddle area here. This is nothing new to you. I will not go into more detail about this. If you want to know more, you can get more information in the other videos. So this is a normal lambskin saddle pad. I personally like these. One advantage of the wide saddle is that they are very flexible in terms of what you can put underneath. I know that opinions differ of what is better, lambskin, saddle pads, other pads. I like using something like these, but really you can use anything as long as it is anatomically cut. Then, trapezium pad. We use the trapezium pad with 90% of the horses together with the D1 and the D2, and it is because the saddle is completely open in the front, because gullet width and wither size, the wither size is significantly wider, and the trapezium pad prevents the saddle from sliding forward. So if we now put the saddle on the horse, this looks decent already. It is in the position that we want here in the front. I can slide my entire hand through there. It's completely open and is supposed to be like that. Still a very unique feature on the market. We have the elastic front girth strap, which prevents the saddle from sliding forward. Still something that is quite unique on the market. Girthing very close to the back of the saddle. There is no seesawing effect like many other three-point girthings have, because the front girth strap is not a part of the three-point latching here. So there is no seesawing effect because this part is elastic. Some people say, how does that work? There is a three-point latching, it should be nodding up and down. No, because this point here in the front is not part of the three-point latching. We have a Velcro block here. Prestige is using a very high quality Velcro. It's really hard to take off. I recommend these to everyone. Really nice to work with, but obviously you can get the blocks in the non-detachable version as well. This is a really nice leather. It's my testing saddle, nice and bright. This is how it looks with all the pads underneath. Nice and stable position. Some customers watch the older videos and they think the saddle is supposed to be nodding up and down, seesawing. And yes, right. The saddle can do that. Let me show you. This is if you place the saddle on the horse directly. Again, here in the front you can see the big gap for the shoulder blades. Still a unique feature. And here you can see why we need the trapezium pad, right? If I put pressure on here, then I get the seesawing effect, and then I have a saddle that clearly does not fit. Also, what is very interesting, Luenzo does have quite the pronounced withers. There's a rumor going around that you can only use the D2 with horses who have broad shoulders, but we can place the saddle as well on tall thoroughbreds, on skinnier horses, and it works very well. And there are only a few horses that are built so giraffe-like that you cannot place the saddle on them. But that would be starved thoroughbreds that are so skinny and they have huge dents here. So you wouldn't have a problem with any other type of saddle as well. Again, if the horse is standing still with no padding, we can have this nodding up and down seesawing effect. If I were to fasten the girths now without anything underneath, it would still be on the horse securely. That's just a main property of the D2, that the girthing system is defined by the back strip because the front one is elastic. But let's place it on the horse correctly with everything that you need, all the pads. So I can tell you everything that is special and what makes it different from the other D2 models. So this saddle obviously has an absolute length, but the D2 and the D1, in the saddle you sit very close to the front, because if you have a very long saddle or X amount of square centimeters to sit in, if the deepest point in the saddle would be so far back, and then it doesn't really bring any benefit to you. So if the saddle is so far away from the shoulder, the rider needs to sit very close to the front of the saddle. And to achieve that, we place the stirrup bar close to the front of the saddle as well, and we angle it in the way to make sure the center of gravity is in the right point. Anyway, maybe you have noticed that it looks like the saddle, the flap is cut forward a little bit, and you have observed correctly, we are using something called projections, so we cut the flap slightly forward. And this is because, for example, I myself, I weigh around about 80 kilos, and most people would place me in a seat size 18. But what I do is I use a size 17 with this forward projection. And by cutting the flap forward, we create a size in between, which is working really well for me, especially because I have long thighs. And this is something that is not very common in the market yet, these different projections. you can cut the flap A+2, A+4. You can also cut it backwards if your legs are shorter, if you have a hollow back. So you can really focus on the needs of the rider with this model and with other prestige saddles as well. So it is not really a custom-fitted saddle, but we manufacture the components individually and then combine them in a way that is suitable for you. So partially custom-fitted for you. This is the D2. This is the normal version. I just want to fasten the girthing so you can see how it is positioned properly, and then afterwards I will compare it to the other 3 models that are part of the D2 series. In conclusion, double flap, A+2, 2 flaps. It comes in different leather versions. Deep seat, rider is positioned close to the front, stirrup bar is close to the front. Unisex tree, suitable for men and women because the seat is quite wide. Saddle is close to the horse, positioned is very secure, high comfort level when you sit in it. D2 double flap.
So, das ist das Modell.
This is the D2 double flap SC. The saddle is not very common, not popular yet, but already available. It is exactly the same as the double flap that I just showed, but it comes with a flat seat, similar to the free. But we have the projection of the flap, we have the Velcro block. All these features are the same, but a flat seat. Why? Because there are a few horses that are built downhill. So horses where the croup is too high, they give you the feeling of letting you slide forward. For people who work with those type of horses, a saddle like this is interesting. And then there are riders who have back problems. They had issues with their tailbones or a slip disc maybe, so they cannot really sit in a deep seat, or they have a horse which does not have a curved back. And for those people, the SC is quite comfortable. For us, it's a very important model to have in our family. So yeah, model number 2.
So, last but not least.
Last but not least, this is the D2K Free. Just give you all the abbreviations to confuse you. So this is a mono flap saddle. And when you look at the numbers that we sell, together with the double flap that I showed first, this is the model that we sell most, internationally as well. This is a flat seat. This is a 1 seat size bigger, which is why it looks larger here. It's just that I do not always have everything here. And this again has the forward projection. So you can imagine it comes cut straight down as well and cut backwards as well. The Free differs in 2 main points from the other D2 models. One point is the panel underneath. The volume, the filling of the panel is 1.5 centimeters thicker than in the other models. And that means the saddle is placed even more securely on the horse. It's very stable. So it is very popular among people who ride stallions or younger horses who act a bit funny still, because it is a very secure saddle. It is positioned very still, but obviously without restricting the horse's ability to move. And if you put a lambskin underneath, it is quite common to use it without a trapezium pad. It is the only one of the D2 models that you can use without a trapezium pad. And the other difference to the other models is the block here. It is not a Velcro block, but it only supports your thigh, not your knee. And this ties into the unisex thing, because women do not have the option to use their tailbone as support. If you know about riding theory, or maybe your instructor told you use your low back to meet the movement of your horse. For men, that's easy. They can just sit down, use their seat bones, their tailbone. Women cannot put this much pressure on their tailbone or not use it at all. But then they have the option of using their pubic bone in the front. So they are just anatomical differences. But if women are not able to use the tailbone, if they want to just apply more force, shorten the reins, just bring their horse to a halt, they need a physical point to focus on. And this is why we have this block, and it is positioned in a way on the free that instead of using your tailbone, you can use the block as a support point. Which is why this saddle is popular, especially amongst women, even though a few people still view it as controversial. You have to use the tailbone, but it's just a fact that women are anatomically different from men. And because they also have the elastic pelvic floor, they just need another point to get support. And that would either be a deep seat or the block. And otherwise, they just would be squeezing on a narrow saddle, and that is just not comfortable. And if you want to sit independently in your horse, then this is a very interesting feature. We are selling this in large numbers. Obviously, the design is a bit special, but a very popular product. And I think I would always recommend trying it. Then we're often asked, what is this nylon piece right here? And this is where we connect the saddle flaps directly to the upper part of the saddle tree. And this is how we achieve the close contact feeling, which is also a nice thing to have for the rider. Those were the 4 D2 models. I will show you those 4 next to each other in a moment, and I will tell you about what model is most suitable for what type of horse. Luenzo is a nice example that on a normal horse you can place all the 4 different versions, no problems at all. So you as a rider have more options. You can choose what feeling you like in your seat, what blocks you like, and you can just focus more on your individual preferences. Then remember, we also have the options to project. We can cut it forward, we can cut it straight down, we can cut it backwards, we can adjust the height of the panel, then obviously we can also adjust the saddle itself. We have this synthetic tree, no gullet plate, so we can adjust it as well, and the point we would adjust it is right here. So if we make any adjustments, we will adjust the entire front part of the saddle and not just the first 10 centimeters. Huge advantage, because obviously if your horse gains weight, it does gain it everywhere, not just in that one specific 10 centimeter location. So many benefits to the D2 models. I just want to tell you, please make sure if you think about buying one of these saddles and you get the feeling that the person in the shop where you're buying, they might even have 1 or 2 models of these, but they don't really know much about the height of the panel or the projections. I just want to make sure that you please find someone who knows about the product, because it is quite an expensive saddle, and then it would be a shame if you buy such a great product for your horse to guarantee the maximum amount of movement for your horse, but then you as a rider in the end would be inconvenienced because the person consulting you didn't know that if you have short legs you should not choose a saddle that is cut forward, and then in the long term you would just be annoyed by your saddle, and that would be a shame. So please get all the information you need. Please ask questions. Make sure you know everything you need to. I will walk you through the main benefits of each model again. Maybe that is quite helpful, and then you can think about your own horse. How is it built? What model would suit my horse best? We will do that now.
So, Also, jetzt haben wir noch mal die 4 Modelle.
So now we have the 4 models all next to each other, all the different D2 models. Let's start with the classic version. This is the normal D2 double flap. In this case, it is A+2, 2 centimeters forward projection, second flap, Velcro block. This is my testing saddle, Elite Leather. I use it for, let's call it, normal horsebacks, all the normal shaped horses, high withers, average withers. Narrow withers works well. Also, I have no problems, no limitations with that. It is available in S, M, and L as wither sizes. The one I personally work with the most is wither size M. If you were to place it on the horse, that is between 34, 35. And then if I use a trapezium pad, I can use the same saddle for different horses between 31 and 35, which is great because that covers the horses gaining weight or muscle or losing weight or muscle. And there is this huge contradiction in the market where many people do not really ask themselves, and they don't think about that. When they tell me, well, for the money I have to spend on the D2, I could get a custom-fitted saddle. But then if they have a saddle that is exactly tailored to the horse, every time the horse gained or lost weight, they would need to get a new saddle, which is not very realistic because it is quite the quick process of horses gaining or losing weight or muscle. So I think our system is much closer to reality because it allows the horses to gain or lose weight, and this is the standard version that works well for most horses. And I just want to mention again, it is a myth that you cannot place it on skinny horses with small withers. I think if someone tells you that, it's just that they don't know how to adjust the saddle. Now moving on, this is the same saddle, D2 SC double flap. What is different is that this one has a flat seat. Flat seat is for people who do not want a deep seat or cannot have a deep seat because they have back problems. For some, it's just a style thing. I chose to include this in my program because there are many horses who are built downhill or who look normal, but then if you sit on them and you're riding, you're going walk, you're going trot, but then you start to canter and then it throws you forward. So you need 2 saddles, one for trot and walking and then one for cantering. And that is quite common with these new modern short horses that we're breeding. And the key to solving that problem would be a saddle with a flat seat, because a flat seat allows you to adjust your sitting position in the saddle. And this is why the Free and the D2 SC are very popular in the gaited horses community. Because when you have different paces, you have different sitting positions in the saddles for amble, tilt, trot, walk, cantering. You have to always adjust your sitting position, and therefore you need a flat seat. And this is also becoming more common for modern warm bloods. And in a few European countries, these flat seats in our D2 saddles are very popular in the gaited horses community. Now moving on to the D2K Free. This is the saddle that allows the most mobility for the rider, but without taking away any of the support, because I know that's a thing on the market. Flat seats, no block, no comfort, no support, no nothing, and some people tell you that is what you need to learn riding. Maybe that works for some people, but I think I personally like the support, and the horses that we have here and that we breed, they have very pronounced strong movements, and the horses also prefer it when the rider is supported more and is sitting relatively still. They like that more than a rider that is wobbling around on the horse, like I would if I did not have the support. So they would really be disturbed by that. So I like having a block. And the free offers you the maximum mobility as a rider while still giving you support. And this is the block right here. Women can use it instead of using their tailbone. And what is different to the other models is that we have more panel here, 1.5 centimeters more. So that means we have many event riders using the saddle. And they have very skinny horses, small withers. Sandra Auffahrt, for example, her horse Mats has one of these saddles, or Anna Sima, top rider, member of the German Olympic team, and she's using one of these saddles as well because they have horses with a small withers. So if you have a very skinny horse, the free might be the best option for you and the saddle that can be placed best on your horse. It comes in a flat seat version, so you can put it on horses that are built downhill. Similar to the SC, it gives you the option to adjust your sitting position. As I said, very popular in the gaited horses community, and they buy the dressage version. Now the final model is the D2K. That is the normal deep seat version, like in the first model I showed you. All the same properties and features like the double flap version, but this one is a mono flap, or well, technically there's two, but we made a cutout in the relevant area where the rider needs to feel close to the horse and wants that mono flap feeling. We decided to make a cutout here. We have the block here, and it clings very nicely to your leg. So, for example, if you were in a panic situation, it would follow the movement of your leg. So it gives you that extra support. And then if your thigh loosens up, the block loosens as well. So that is a very popular feature of this saddle. These are the 4 different models. They all have in common that here at the bottom, based on that very wide unisex tree, on the bottom, we have a very large contact surface. So we do not only have this large channel, which is standard today, but we have large panels. So this is a difference to the D1. Depending on the horseback, depending how pointy it is, the wider the back, the more we have this effect. We have 25%, 30% more contact surface. So that is a better weight distribution, that is less pressure on the long back muscle. The horses really enjoy that. And then you can see very nicely that the saddle comes in 2 designs. This is the style sensor, that is Italian for without, very simple. And this is the version with the decor. We have this little angel here, the white stitching, and the black version. I do not have that to show you, unfortunately, but there won't be a white stitching. There would just be the gemstones in black. So very subtle detail. Prestige in general is not a company that is going all out when it comes to decorations, but I think that is a cute little detail. But obviously, you as the customer can decide what you like best. That is the D2 family. And yes, I think you have now seen all the relevant things. For us, it is a very important topic. Many riders, many horses come from far away to try out these saddles here at Saddle Me. And I am very happy that I was the person to develop these and that I found a partner in Prestige that produces them in a very high quality. I enjoy this product and I hope you do too.